that matter most. That's why there's access from AT&T. If you are a California resident and a member of your household participates in SNAP or receives SSI benefits, you may qualify for home internet at a discounted rate of $10 a month. No commitment, no deposit, no installation fee. Plus, get an in-home Wi-Fi gateway at no extra cost. Call 1-855-220-5211 or visit att.com/aware to learn more.
SNAP refers to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SSI refers to the Federal Supplemental Security Income Program. Pricing excludes taxes and fees. Service will include a monthly data allowance depending on the type and speed of service you receive. If you exceed your monthly data plan allowance, you will be automatically charged $10 for each 50 gigabytes of data usage in excess of your data plan, even if less than 50 gigabytes is used. For details about data allowances, go to att.com/internet-usage. Wi-Fi enabled device required. Other restrictions apply.
The Southern California real estate market is cooling off. Here's Jason Campidonia.
New numbers show that the sales in the Los Angeles area were down about 20% last year, which is an 11-year low, and it's looking more and more like a buyer's market. The property data firm CoreLogic says the high price of real estate in the area and the interest rate fluctuations have impacted the market. The median price for a home in SoCal is now about $515,000. Jason Campidonia, NBC News Radio.
I'm finally getting my abs back thanks to TC1 Gel. I gained some inches around the belly last year and the holidays didn't help either. But then I discovered TC1 Gel and now 2019 is the year of my abs returning. TC1 Gel is a thermogenic gel that you rub on your waist 15 minutes before exercising. Then simply put on the TC1 sweat belt and start your workout. You'll sweat like crazy and feel the burn. It focuses on boosting circulation, increasing perspiration, activates body heat, reduces muscle fatigue, and burns off more calories. Get your TC1 Gel now. Go to tc1gel.com and use the code RADIO30 for a 30% discount on this amazing product. Again, RADIO30 is a code for 30% off the regular low price of TC1 Gel. You can also go to www.tc followed by the numeral 1 gel.com. That's TC number 1 gel.com. TC1gel.com. Get rid of a few inches and get your abs back with TC1 Gel. Also, follow them on Instagram, handle TC1 Gel. Also, answer your cat's questions day. This is a holiday when people with cats are to look at them and meditate on what they think they are trying to ask them and then answer the cat's questions. I'm totally serious about this. There are multiple ways in which cats try to communicate with humans. When a cat purrs at a human, it means the cat wants their attention or care and doesn't want them to go away. It may mean that the cat is happy, but it may also mean that they are hurt, sick, or need help in some other way. Cats also communicate by rubbing up against people. When they do this after an owner returns home, they are acknowledging their owner's return and are welcoming them back, expressing that they have missed them. Meowing is something cats have come up with in order to communicate with or to get the attention of humans. It has developed because humans have given a response to it, and it is not something that feral cats actually do. Also, they blink slowly when they are comfortable with who they are looking at. Cats even use their tails to communicate their feelings. I'm Andrew Caravella. This has been The More You Know. Happy Answer Your Cat's Questions Day. Martinez Trucking in Santa Fe Springs knows that there's no place like home. They encourage all area listeners to send the gift of home to an American soldier or unit serving overseas. All you have to do is just type military care packages into your Google search engine and click to send joy and thanks, as well as a much-needed morale boost to those who serve us every day. That patriotic reminder is courtesy of Martinez Trucking in Santa Fe Springs, where they're on the air because they care.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
From the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful, raining California, thank goodness. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone this afternoon. I'm Rob Starr, along with the famous, infamous, the mouth of the South, Mr. Chris Davies.
Thank you, sir.
I hear static.
I do. I hear a lot of static. Isn't famous and infamous sort of an oxymoron? No?
It's like shrimp.
Shrimp.
Big shrimp.
Yep, absolutely. So, hey, I understand you celebrated one of life's milestones this past week. Did you not?
That could be true.
A counting anniversary.
Yeah, I don't feel it. It comes and goes. I have one of those every year.
Well, many happy returns.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And please tell your lovely wife thank her for the nice, kind message.
I will.
I appreciate that.
I'll certainly tell her.
Now, if she can tell my wife to do the same thing to me, that'd be great. Anyway, it's a good week. We're going to have lots of rain. It rained pretty hard today.
It did indeed, but we saw thunder and lightning and rainbows all in one day.
Oh, that was a beautiful rainbow coming over.
Awesome driving up here.
Huge. And I guess Saturday is going to be the worst storm coming.
That's right. We could get up to 2 to 3 inches in the valleys and up to 4 to 5 inches in the foothills.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It is. Well, it's tough for the guys who just went through all of those fires in the fall, right? So
that's true.
That's tough for those guys because there's no vegetation. Hasn't been enough time for vegetation to grow on the hillsides, and
I hear thunder now.
So that's dangerous.
Hey, can we do a test while we're here on the air? Can I try your headphones for a second?
Yep. Sure.
I can't hear anything through mine.
Let's try that. How do you feel? How's it sound now?
Hello.
I can hear you just fine through these headphones.
I must be going. I must be going deaf.
You need to crank up your thing there. And Nick in the control rooms, he's saying he's looking like everything's good.
Okay, it must be me. No, I guess it's me. See, I think it's that yearly thing you're talking about. I'm getting
one of those things.
It's one of the first things to go.
Yeah, it's only a number.
Only a number. That's right. Well, thank you, audience, for letting me try that. I just had to see what was going on. I thought I'm going deaf.
All right. So you know what? We have a guest that has been on for a while tonight.
I know, and we miss this person dearly.
We do indeed.
Miss Chris Austin, the purveyor of Maven's Notebook.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We be fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you're an old audio guy going deaf. What's new about that?
What?
Well, what? Hey, what? Hey, Rob, how old are you? Fess up now.
No, I don't want to fess up now.
He's old enough to know, but young enough not to tell anybody else.
Yeah.
Well, you know what my birthday present was? I have the second worst birthday in the world. My birthday is the day after Christmas. The worst birthday in the world is to be born on Christmas Day.
Oh, my mother-in-law was that.
Yeah, I know. I have, I remember when I was 21, saying, "Come on, I turned 21. I got to go out." And they're like, "Oh, we're so tired. Can we do it next week?" Yeah, I was like, "No, I'm 21 tonight. Come on."
Well, I remember.
So I remember those days.
I mean, I remember when I was, 20s, early 20s, and we sit there and talk about women. Who would want to go out with a 35-year-old woman and this and that? Now you sit around and say, "Hey, look at that hot-looking 55-year-old."
It's all perspective, buddy. All perspective.
No.
It is.
Hey, so, Chris, are you home? Are you in SoCal or traveling?
I am home. I've been home all month. My husband was traveling in Mexico this month, so I stay home to make sure the house doesn't burn down with our 2 teenagers here.
Yeah.
So I've been. But I get to go up to the Bay Area, and I get to be there on Saturday, and they're expecting a bucket load of rain. So, and it's supposed to rain on me all week while I'm up there. So I'm so happy to be going.
Well, I thought you were going to see Governor Newsom.
No, not yet. We'll see. We'll see if he reads Maven's Notebook. Not sure he does, but maybe he does. I don't know. I met Jerry Brown. I got to tell you this. I met Jerry Brown in. I was getting on a Southwest flight to Sacramento, and he was on my flight. And I got to tell you, Jerry Brown flies Southwest, and he lines up in the line with all the rest of us, if you can believe that.
No, I know he does.
Yeah, so I met him up there, and he had a newspaper in his hand, and Carla Namath, who was then Director of Water Policy, introduced me to him, and she writes this blog, Maven's Notebook, and he looked at me like, I don't know who the hell you are. The newspaper in his hand was probably a clue. He was not impressed. So hopefully, maybe Governor Newsom is a little more internet-oriented, so maybe he'll actually know who I am. Who knows?
Yeah, I was up there a couple of years ago with the Riverside Chamber, and we had a meeting with him and a couple other senators and assembly people, and he was nice. He was pleasant. We had a conversation about water conservation, and one of his senators came up with something that I didn't agree with, and I kindly said, well, the dinosaurs used to be here too, but they're not here anymore, and you got to kind of move on to things like that. They were talking about I forgot what the fish was, and it wasn't the ones in the Delta smelt. It was something else, and California suckerfish. That's what it was. And I really didn't want to talk about it, and plus, I have to say, because I work for a big company and I'm representing them, so I can't go into that. Even though I'm a private citizen, it's not the professional thing to do to get into that with them. So I didn't. But anyway,
it's tough. What do you say when you get on a plane with celebrities and politicians, right?
Yeah. Can I have your autograph?
Well, the interesting thing is that we in the water world are all still kind of waiting for Governor Newsom to show his hand.
Yep.
And the big deal is, Felicia Marcus is chair of the State Water Resources Control Board, which recently made a very unpopular decision to put more flows back in the tributaries to the San Joaquin River, which affects like a lot of things all the way out from the Delta to the Bay Area, including, San Francisco Public Utility Commission's water, as well as farmers and a lot of things along the way. And they voted in December to enact that, or to implement that plan, or to go to the next stage of implementation. And Felicia Marcus, chair of the State Water Board, her appointment actually expired on January 15th. Now, they can continue to serve for 2 months after their appointment expires, but that basically means that the timer's set, and Governor Newsom has to make a call. Is he going to continue to retain and reappoint Felicia Marcus, or is he going to replace her? And this is actually a really controversial thing. Governor Newsom, if you remember, was mayor of San Francisco.
Right.
We remember.
And San Francisco is very divided on this plan that the State Water Board implemented. On one hand, San Francisco is the birth of the environmental movement, and wanting to have more water in the rivers for salmon is sort of part of the history, the DNA of San Francisco. However, to put more water in the tributaries will affect San Francisco's water supply.
Yep.
And I should point out that San Francisco, they don't have a lot of outdoor water use. It's mostly indoor. And if you have a lot of outdoor water use in green lawns, it's easy to see where you might be able to cut back water. But San Francisco is mostly indoor water use. I mean, it's actually going to mean that regular people are going to you're going to feel the pinch of this.
Yep.
But they're very conflicted. And Governor Newsom was mayor of the city. So does he support Felicia Marcus as chair of the State Water Board, restoring flows in the river to support salmon, or does he not support that decision, which cuts water to San Francisco? It's a fascinating thing, and we're all waiting to see. And from what I understand, I've had some of my readers email me and tell me that Governor Newsom could put this out until March 15th. It's happened before, drag the decision out. But we're all watching that one. That's going to be a big call. He's appointed a lot of people to help him on different policy areas, but he has not appointed a water policy person in his governorship yet. So, whether he doesn't have to, that's up to him. but that's also a sign of how much emphasis he's going to put on water issues during his administration.
Well, we've been trying for 3 years to get him on the show and haven't been successful.
Well, the thing about vice governor is what do they do?
Well, that's why I figured he had a lot of time on his hand. He could come on the show. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but seriously, when you looked at his website, I have not recently, but it claimed that he was the big savior of water and big for conservation. And I thought he'd be perfect. I know when I was on the committee for the San Bernardino County Water Symposium, we sent him a letter, a request to see if he would come and do a keynote speech. They didn't even have the courtesy of responding to us, and I thought, and it was signed not just by me. I mean, I'm nothing, but we had the county supervisors and the executive director of the Building Industry Association and people from Aqua and everybody else, and they didn't have the courtesy to even get back to us, which I thought that was kind of rude. I mean, he does work for the people of the California, and he has a staff to answer. And if he really couldn't make it, that's okay. But can you let us know?
Yeah.
But he
didn't.
Well,
I should say this: the one thing that Governor Newsom, the one issue he has taken up is trying to get clean drinking water to disadvantaged communities. And I'm sure, to the dismay of all the water agencies, he has reintroduced the idea of the water tax.
Yeah.
So that already sets up something. But still, he hasn't really shown his hand. And there are a couple of other appointments that he has to make. Is he going to retain Carla Namath as Director of Department of Water Resources? Who's he going to choose for Director of Department of Fish and Wildlife? He did name Wade Crowfoot to be the Secretary of Natural Resources Agency, which from all accounts, seems to be a very a good choice.
He is. We had Wade. Wade was the special advisor to Jerry Brown. We had him on our show. Nice guy, really knows his stuff. I'm glad that's happened. I guess John Laird probably wants to retire. I think he used to be a state senator and assembly guy. I like John Laird. When you really sit down and listen to him, and he really understands what's going on or was going on, and he was on our show as well. But Wade's a great guy. I think he'll do well as well.
Yeah. So we're all waiting, or I'm waiting at least, to see who, how all these other appointments play out. When I may be waiting for a few months. So we'll see. Hey, big news today is that the Arizona legislature just this afternoon approved the drought contingency plan for the Colorado River. They were like the last holdout, and probably the most difficult because they were the only state that had to get legislature approval due to the way they structure their water rights. But yes, they have. So they have met the deadline, but just by the skin of their teeth. But so it looks like we have a drought contingency plan for the Colorado River. Although, things are not looking great for the Colorado River overall. So we'll see. We'll see where it all goes. But that's the good news. So.
Yeah. That's great. Hey, can we touch on a couple of the other daily digest things off of Maven's notebook, particularly the snowpack, right, with this weather that we've got coming in now? And I was reading something interesting. Maybe you can comment on, Chris, is the snow that is there and that has just arrived has a much higher water content than it did last year when we had those drier but colder storms.
Yes, it's really good news, and the fact that we're at 100% of our long-term average is really, great news because we've been getting progressively, if you look at the trend, more precipitation in the form of rain rather than snow. So it's actually good news that we've actually kept up to the long-term average because in recent years, we've had much less snowpack. I mean, remember in 2017 we had record precipitation, but only about 2/3 of a normal snowpack. I mean, it was not a record snowpack. So it's great to be sort of, caught up with things. So it's boding well for a good snowpack and a good water year. However, we need the rain and we need the snow to continue. If it stops now, it will, and sometimes it does. So, there's still many more months to go in the water year. But so far, we're looking really good.
That's good. Hey, I heard something real quick, but I didn't catch the whole thing about the twin tunnels somebody was complaining about today.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh yeah, that they will never end. Yeah, twin tunnels and levees. People are concerned about boring under levees. There's a lot of concern for if they build the water fix project, what it will do to the levees. Not only tunneling under them, but a lot of heavy truck traffic on top of them. Mm-hmm. If you drive through the Delta. A lot of these roads, they sink, they dip. It's because things are kind of moving and changing in there. So, yeah, and, it's really going to be fascinating to see what happens with the tunnels this year. We're still waiting to hear what's going to happen with the hearings at the State Water Board. Testimony concluded at the beginning of October, I believe, actually on October 1st. And they have not said whether they're going to move to closing arguments, ask for more testimony, or because of a lot of the changes that occurred since the end of October, things like the agreement for operation of the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project, how they're going to split the water bill, so to speak, on that, who puts up how much water. Some significant changes. They approved this plan for more flows in the San Joaquin River, and all these things were not reflected in the modeling that they've used over this past 2 years of hearings. So the question is, what are they going to do now? The tunnel opponents have said, at the very least, you have to have a phase 3 where we're going to look at all this new information, or you need to just start it all over again. And they have not, the State Water Board has not said what they're going to do. So, we're all waiting to see what's going to happen with that.
A lot of balls in the air.
Oh, boy, yeah. And Governor Newsom has said that he supports a one-tunnel option over a two-tunnel option, at least the last thing that I heard. But I don't really see where the governor has, where there's a way to interfere now with this process because it's all in permitting.
Right.
Maybe he does. I don't know. But
they can always go to the Ninth Circuit Court.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt it will be litigated. Whatever happens will be litigated.
Right.
The State Water Board approved these additional flows in the river, and they are being sued by not only the farmers that are on that river, but also by environmental groups that said you didn't go far enough. So what do? The farmers are like, you went too far, the environmental groups not far enough. So,
that's the way the world works. You're never going to get 100% of the people to agree on anything. So
nobody bats 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, and I suppose the fact that both sides are pissed off sort of means that nobody won, and it's probably a good decision. Because if the environmentalists were going, yay, then it's probably like, wait, there's too much. They gave too much. Yeah.
Well, hey, all right, Chris, it's great to have you back on the show again this week. And hopefully we'll get back on the air more regularly with you.
Okay, sounds great.
Well, we just had some scheduling issues, but we certainly want you on as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
always a pleasure.
Good. All right. Well, thanks, Chris. most importantly, for all our listeners, please go to mavensnotebook.com. It's a great place to get your California water news. Everything you ever want to know about it is there. And if you also want to participate in being a sponsor to Maven's Notebook, please do so. It has all the information on that website. It's a great reading. Comes out every single day. And that's where we get the news from, to be honest. So it's more accurate than anybody I know.
Yep, up to date doesn't do it justice. Up to the minute does.
Yes, up to the second. Up to the second.
Thank you.
So thanks, Chris. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care, Chris.
Okay, good evening, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to come back in just a few moments. We're going to go let our sponsors say what they have to say, and we'll be back the second half. We have a guest from far away, and he'll be a great guest, so I won't tell you who it is until you get back. So stick around.
Stay tuned, folks.
Yes.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
If you knew there was a pipe cement that works better than the one you're currently using, is better for you and the environment, and costs the same or less, would you buy it? Oh, no-brainer, right? Weldon, the trusted leader in solvent cements for over 60 years, is pleased to introduce a new line of solvent cements that does all that. Introducing the Eco Series line of solvent cements for PVC piping systems. Not only does it work great and set fast, it also has 30% lower solvent emissions and less smelly fumes, a better workplace environment when you're installing pipes. But don't just take our word for it. Eco Series products are the only solvent cements that are Green Seal certified for environmental innovation for effective performance, improved working conditions, and for use with potable water. Now available in a medium-bodied fast-setting blue formula, 905 Eco, and a regular-bodied fast-setting clear formula, 900 Eco. Pick up a can today from your local distributor and see, smell, and feel the difference, just like Joe Sweat, president of Sunrise Irrigation, did. He said, after using Weldon's 905 Eco, we immediately noticed the application was smooth and there was noticeably less odor than other blue solvent cements on the market. The guys love it. To learn more about Eco Solvent Cements from Weldon, visit the website at www.weldon.com or call the technical service hotline at 877-477-8327. That's 877-477-8327.
Time to take a water break and talk some water. Irrigation. Such a refreshing topic. As more and more markets face water restrictions, your customers may be hungry, or should I say thirsty, for water-saving products. For new installations, add options like drip irrigation, controllers that respond to weather data, pressure-regulating heads, or heads with check valves. They all provide easy ways to differentiate your bids and win more jobs. Or for an extra stream of revenue, offer existing customers upgrades like high-efficiency nozzles, rotary nozzles, or Wi-Fi-based controllers. Because when you help your customers save water, you make a world of difference for the earth and your bottom line at the same time. We'll drink to that.
Then we're back.
We're back.
Wow, I still hear static. You hear static, Nick? You hear static?
I do indeed.
Yeah, it's not
Right
just
next
me.
to you.
It's not just me. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. As long as the world hears us, we're happy. And as long as Nick keeps us on the air, we're good. And as long as the FCC doesn't come in here, we're good too. So that's a good deal. Anyway, we're back for the second half of the Water Zone. For those, again, thanks for Chris Austin. It's always a pleasure having her on. I tell you, it's just a sweet lady. We have another guest here today, and his name is Ryan Miras. And Ryan has 12 years of experience in energy efficiency, energy policy, and building energy codes, and has published more than 24 case studies and reports and resources on all those topics. As the program director for ResNet, which we'll get into so our listeners will know what that means, Ryan currently leads numerous programs, including implementation of ResNet's HERS. That's another program. I don't know why they don't have a HIS program, but they have a HERS program. Whole house water efficiency standards, required, as well as initiatives to get energy and water efficiency valued in the real estate transaction process. So, Chris, you want to give a little bit more about him?
Yeah, sure. So we've done. Before you bring you to the mic there, Ryan, I understand that you spent right before ResNet. You were with the Institute for Market Transformation, also known as IMT. We love TLAs, which are three-letter acronyms here.
IMITs.
Yeah, IMIT.
IFO.
Yep, and just a broad background, I guess, Ryan, on energy code development with at the city, state, and national levels. You're an ICC fellow with the U.S. Department of Energy for their building energy codes programs, with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, the DCA, another TLA, right? Yep. A TLA is a three-letter acronym for our listeners. And also before that, you completed your HERS class or certification in 2007 and served as the Earthcraft House Technical Advisor at South Face Energy Institute, right? And you are also LEED accredited, right? You're a professional, certified residential energy inspector and plans examiner, and you have a bachelor's degree, and you live in upstate New York. Man, that's a lot, Ryan. Welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Did we get that all right?
Yeah, you did. You said way too much. You only had to read the first part.
Oh.
Just didn't want to edit it before I sent it over.
No, that's kind. We wanted to give you the credit that you've earned, so we appreciate that a lot. And so for our listeners, can you maybe explain to them what that acronym ResNet means?
Yeah, so ResNet is the Residential Energy Services Network. It's a nonprofit organization that's governed by a board of directors, about 23 members that are elected by the membership of our organization. We really do three things. We develop standards by which homes, single-family and multifamily buildings, are rated for energy efficiency and for water efficiency. And we certify the individuals who do the ratings, and then we provide quality assurance on the work that they do.
So I'm on a committee for the National Association of Home Builders for the Water Efficiency Task Group. And then there's the leads and all that. How are all these standards that all these places are creating? How does that segregate into the world, and who follows what? And should there be one standard? You know, how does that all come together, or doesn't it? In your experience?
Yeah, it does. And in the water efficiency realm, there's many standards that are just I would say in the infancy stage, and including the standard that we're developing on water efficiency, standard 1101.
Right.
And so there's differences between voluntary programs like we have, and then if you're referenced within, say, the plumbing code or the energy code, then it becomes mandatory. And then there's other standards like the IAPMO's We Stand water efficiency standard, which will also reference other standards, like potentially like the standard 1101 that we have, where it would be a performance-based approach to complying with that code. So there's many standards out there. There certainly are attempts to bring them together so that there's some harmony among the standards, but they all serve the purpose of being able to provide some comfort to the public that say the home that they're purchasing was met a certain standard.
Is there
playing field?
Is there an advantage one versus another? And I know, and we'll get into the HERS thing in a second. I mean, I had that done when I put a whole new air conditioning system in my house, and they had to put all new tubing and all that, and they did all their things for the HERS rating. But how does a builder, for example, know which one should he go after? I mean, you can probably do all these other ones, but it costs money to get them all done and get them all inspected and they're somewhat similar, but they're also somewhat different in the ratings and the point systems and so forth.
Yeah, so builders certainly have a choice, and sometimes it's going to be what works best for the product, for the type of home that they're building.
Right.
But it's not always that one standard is better than another standard. When it comes to the HERS index, for example, we're referenced in Energy Star, we're referenced in LEED for Homes, we're referenced in the National Green Building Standards that NAHB does. So we serve very much as that baseline. It's a performance-based target that has to be hit for energy efficiency.
And just for our listeners, Chris, could you just explain what the HERS acronym stands for our listeners who may not know what it is? Because I know when people here in California, they can go to the gas company or their, I think it's a water agency, and they can get basically a loan to put in new air conditioning systems and things like that, and they pay it on their property tax. And so they come in and do this HERS testing and things. So can you explain what HERS stands for as well?
Yeah, so HERS is the home energy rating system. So there's the HERS index, which is for energy efficiency, and then the water efficiency component is called HERS H2O.
Okay.
Yeah, so you pointed to me, so I'm going to ask the question. I was just going to go back a little bit because I'm interested, Ryan, in hearing with all the different organizations out there that develop standards and certifications. What was the impetus? What brought ResNet together in the first place? Kind of what's the history?
Yeah, so the history of ResNet is that ResNet as an organization was founded in 1995. It was representatives from the mortgage industry and also the National Association of State Energy Officials, as well as a predecessor organization called Energy Rated Homes of America. And these groups came together to form ResNet. But prior to that, back in the 80s, there was a group of mortgage industry leaders that got together and formed something called the National Shelter Industry Energy Advisory Council. And that council, the purpose of that council was to be able to establish a way to verify the energy efficiency of a home, and for the purposes of incorporating the energy savings in the mortgage underwriting process. And that's ultimately what the reason that ResNet was formed, to develop these standards, was so that they could, for different mortgage products, they could actually use the rating and the energy savings from that a home gets from their HERS rating to include within the underwriting process for mortgages.
When you're actually developing this standards, Ryan, putting them together, what sort of other constituencies do you work with in the development stages?
Yeah, so we work across a pretty broad spectrum of stakeholders. Many, certainly home builders. Home builders are really our primary customer, indirectly through the rating companies that we certify, and but we also work with electric and gas utilities, other standard development groups, and the individual HERS raters themselves are involved in the process, as well as the trades, plumbing trades, electrical trades, code officials, a pretty broad group that's involved in the development of this type of a standard and all of the standards that we do.
Yeah, I think people realize the need for standards and developing codes and things like that. So once the codes are developed, sort of like who's the customer who recognizes these standards, not just ResNets but others. Is that shared amongst the constituents that you service as well?
Yeah, so once you have a standard, so ResNet is an American National Standards accredited standards developer, or ANSI accredited standards developer. So once the standard is developed and approved by ANSI, it's then available to be referenced in energy codes, like we have Standard 301 called the Energy Rating Index, which is referenced as a compliance path in the Energy Code. For water efficiency, it could be something that's referenced within the plumbing code. But once you finally have that standard out there, it's then available to be referenced in other codes. In, say, for example, for the HERS index, we're recognized by the IRS for the purposes of tax credit qualification. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we're referenced in the Energy Star program under the U.S. EPA,
right,
as well as the Department of Energy.
Yeah.
Right.
I know we were on my committee on the water task team for NAHB. I know we had some documents that came from your organization for us to review and put into the thing, and I think it's still in discussion. The problem is, when you probably know, when you have more than one person to read it and make a decision, you have many people, you get many different opinions, and you can't get, again, 100% of the people to agree on anything. So we're going through that. So how does this HERS H2O rate landscaping irrigation, and I guess Chris and I are really interested in that because we work for an irrigation manufacturer, and how does that affect us?
Yeah, so in order to rate landscape irrigation, HERS H2O takes into account a number of things. One of them is geographic location, and geographic location is used in order to determine the net evapotranspiration. It also considers the total size of the lot that the home is going to be sitting on, so the entire lot size, and then also the portion of that lot that is going to then be landscaped and presumably irrigated as well. Those data points are all that's needed to get in the HERS H2O calculator to actually estimate the water usage. Mm-hmm. The data that goes in behind in the calculator is based on the residential end uses of water study, the second number 2, and so that's basically what's needed just to get an estimate of your irrigation water consumption.
Does it take account the type of vegetation?
It does. It indirectly accounts for the type of vegetation, and the way that it is done is through something called the Residential Irrigation Capacity Index, or the RICI, which was developed by the Southern Nevada Water Authority, and that's included within the HERS H2O standard. And the way that it takes into account is that we're assuming that the landscape professional, the irrigation installer is going to install enough water to meet the needs of the landscape. And so what the RICI does is it accounts for the zone flow rates needed for the entire for every emitter in the irrigation system.
To maintain a healthy crop, then, or turf in this case.
Yes.
Shrubs, plants.
So it probably takes into consideration the crop coefficients of the whatever type of plants or bushes or shrubs that they're doing, and mixing that together to get this. So what happens? I know in my committee that I serve on, and we talk about, okay, this all gets, and this isn't just for you, these are for the other ones as well that's out there. They have one here in California they're working on called the MWILO, for the modern landscape ordinance and things, efficient landscape ordinance. So people got to go get those, and they'll put them in new construction or rework. But what happens when they sell the property? Do they have to go back and get another HERS test and get this all? Is that part of the standards that ResNet would say has to happen? Because, people don't always maintain, and in this instance we're talking irrigation, they don't always maintain their irrigation system properly. Things happen, their yard subsides, the spray bodies subside into the ground, they're below ground level, the nozzles get clogged, and people change the programs on the controller. So what happens after the initial, okay, it's bought off, they signed it and approves through this ResNet, what happens down the road when they want to sell this thing, or in between? Is it required, or will it be required that they have to go redo this, or before they sell the house they have to get a whole new audit done? And
so there's a couple parts to that. One is that, so in terms of ResNet, we don't require that at the sale of a property that it be essentially re-rated. That's not required within our standards. Our standards it's an asset rating. So it's a snapshot in time when the majority of ratings that we do are new construction. So a snapshot in time when the builder finished that home, everything was done, the final rating was completed, and that was the score that home received at that time. Now, a local jurisdiction could come in and do that, especially say if it was a very drought-prone area, they could require within their local ordinance to say at the time of sale that the home has to receive another rating, and they can also define the target level for where where that rating has to be. In other words, how efficient does the water use of that home have to be in order to comply with their ordinance.
Would I know you said earlier about the mortgage industry was, one of the implementers of all of these things or creators of this. Would they, when the home gets sold, would the new mortgage company possibly say, "Hey, I want this redone this way," and can they force that?
I've never heard of that being done. Typically, it's a battle to get the appraiser to recognize that a home that has special energy or water efficiency components, which are almost always unseen, especially on the energy side, everything that's behind the walls that makes a home energy efficient that you can't actually see. You've got to really battle with the appraiser to get them to appraise that value. Then you have to get your mortgage lender to recognize that the energy or water efficiency levels. So I haven't heard of lenders doing that. It's conceivable that they could, but typically it's a battle with the appraiser and the lender to get them to just acknowledge that this home actually may have a higher value because it has specific energy and water efficiency features, which greatly reduce the operating costs of the home and could potentially allow you to get a higher mortgage because those costs are reduced.
Yeah, that all that data is great, and as we all know, a lot of agencies, especially in the real estate business, collect a lot of data about us. So I can see how that's important. But I'd like to go back and ask a bit more of a basic question, if it's all right, Ryan. And we've talked about how and what and when the Hearst H2O, why it's efficient and why how it's implemented. But the basic question is really, why is there a need for residential water efficiency standards like this? I mean, the obvious answer, the answer might be obvious to some of us, but for some of the listeners, can you kind of give us a top 30,000 foot view of that?
Yeah, certainly. So water efficiency is in a similar position as energy efficiency was back in the 80s. Energy prices in the 70s into the 80s really starting to soar, becoming a very high cost burden on homeowners. Water prices are actually increasing now faster than energy prices, and so water bills are becoming a significant monthly expense for a lot of homeowners, and they're starting to pay attention to that, especially buyers, people looking for new homes. They're paying attention to energy and water and how much those bills are going to be. So, similar to energy efficiency, the goal with water efficiency is ultimately to get it accounted for within the mortgage underwriting process, and having a standard allows that to happen. There's an interesting statistic on this, that the average homeowner actually pays more for energy than they do for property taxes and insurance, and that's something that comes from data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So if there isn't a standard by which a home is rated for water efficiency, then there's really no basis to account for water costs in the mortgage process.
Sure. Yeah, Rob and I are nodding our head. We've heard the same data, right? The old famous saying, "Whiskey's for drinking, but water's for fighting over."
Yeah. It's really true. It's a lot of water agencies here in California went to the tiered rating system. So you get, they do a water budget for your home for how many, similar to what you said, easy. What's your location? What's the net ET, the size of the property? What do you landscape? How many people live in the house? You have pets. And then they calculate how many rooms and such. And then they calculate how much water, or they set a budget, how much water you should be using per day. And if you exceed all of this stuff, then they start going into the tiered rating, which can be quite expensive for people. I think that's good, but I also seen once up in Beverly Hills. I was with one of the ladies who was a conservation manager for the water district up there, and there was one home that she showed me. They had 7 swimming pools. 7.
In one house?
In one house. This was more than a mega mansion. It was huge.
So.
And she said they're not the only ones that have multiple pools in their home, but they had 7 swimming pools, and they were in the highest tiered rate. And the guy who owned it, the owner of the house, said, "I don't care what the bill is. I can afford it. Just keep the water coming."
Wow.
And I guess if you can afford that, I guess you can do that. But I can't even imagine having 2 pools, let alone 1. I mean, let alone 7. That's just ironic.
Yeah. So what would I be right in assuming, since this is indoor and outdoor water use on the HERS H2O rating, that all of your indoor and outdoor, so like your washer and dryer and things like that, as well as your irrigation systems, all of those components are included in the HERS H2O rating?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there are, and essentially anything indoor and outdoor is accounted for. So indoor it's going to include your faucets, the shower tub, water softener also, as well as if it takes into account the water pressure. If you have a very high water pressure, it will actually increase your estimated water consumption. Clothes washers and dishwashers, as well as irrigation. And it also does account for pool and spa, and it also looks at your plumbing layout. How far from your water heater to the furthest fixture is it? Because that can be a lot of wasted water waiting for that tap to get hot.
Are most of the constituents that use this rating now regional or local, or is it national or on its way to being national?
It is national and actually just became international. We're going to be doing a pilot in Canada as well on a couple of hundred homes there, which will also be, they're not only going to be rating them, but they're also going to be monitoring water consumption, including the use of a gray water system to see how much gray water can offset potable water use. But we're in discussions in Utah to have it picked up there by some of the water utilities, potentially as an incentive program. And we've done some pilot ratings in Texas and Colorado, as well as California. So that it's getting picked up. We're in the pilot phase right now, but this year we will launch it for nationally and open it up to everyone.
Interesting. I had a meeting with the prior administration's administrator of the EPA, Gina McCarthy. And like our irrigation controllers are listed on the EPA for Water Smart. And people who have electrical devices, they go under Energy Star. Mm-hmm. So I had asked the question to Gina, Mrs. McCarthy, why couldn't irrigation controllers be Energy Star certified as well as WaterSense? And so she gave me a name of somebody to talk to, and I did. And he said, it's a water product, so it has to go under WaterSense. I said, but I looked in your information, your directories and all of that, and I'm an engineer, electronic engineer in physics, and I said, you have a listing for computers, and you have something called an integrated computer, which is a device that has a microprocessor. It has I/O, it has inputs and outputs, it has memory, it has an input keyboard, which is a touchscreen or buttons to enter data into, and it comes with an LCD. That's a description of a integrated computer. Well, if you take a look at not just mine, but any of our competitors' smart controllers, they all have those components. So I said, why can't we get an Energy Star for that? No, you have to do just WaterSense. And I don't understand it. I still want to pursue that because, if you have an irrigation controller that's smart and it controls the amount of time, the proper amount of time, which really is how much water you're putting down, you're actually saving electricity as well. And especially if you're looking on large campuses where they may have 200 valves or something like that, you could be saving quite a bit of electricity at the same time. But it's hard to convince some of these people at the EPA that it's an integrated computer. So I said, well, how about if I call it a irrigation computer? Well, it does the same thing. It has exactly the same components. And what do you feel? How would Resonant? Maybe you could tell, or just how would you feel? Should it be Energy Star as well as WaterSense?
I think the case could be made for that, especially if you can control when you're going to be irrigating, you can avoid in terms of, on the electric side, you often have tiers similar to the water side,
right,
in terms of utility bills. And if you can irrigate that lawn on an off-peak time for electric consumption, you can often get it at a lower rate.
Yep.
And I mean, at a larger scale, energy efficiency and water efficiency are very much interrelated. You use less energy, you're going to pump less water. You're going to use less water to cool your power plants. And at the scale of home, if you have to heat hot water, and if you're wasting a whole bunch of water before your shower gets hot, then you're also wasting a lot more energy.
Right. Could I get you to ask your superiors if they would come to Washington with me so we can make that case? I think that'd be powerful.
Washington is a short trip for me, based in New York. So.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. Well, I'm going to take the point of view of our listeners again here, because I often do that on the show. So I'm a listener listening to this show, and I'm saying, hey, I want to get a HERS H2O rating. If I'm a homeowner, how do I do that?
Yeah, so you can go to the ResNet, so our website, resnet.us, and we have a locator on there for HERS raters. We have a network of over 2,000 certified HERS raters, and they can do a HERS rating. They can also do a HERS H2O rating. Some of them are not going to be familiar with HERS H2O rating yet because it is new, but many of them are learning it and will be trained on it this year when we roll out a full training for our HERS raters. So that's so you can go and find a HERS rater on there, and you can ask them to come and do a HERS H2O rating on your home, or if you're interested in energy efficiency, you can have them do a HERS rating as well.
What would you say the top 5 things about energy audits people don't know?
Yeah, what are the secrets?
Yeah, give us the dirt.
So, energy audit, interesting topic. So, one thing is getting an energy audit, or even in say a water audit for HERS H2O. It's not a very invasive process. There's some basic tests that are done. It's kind of like having like a home inspector come in before you purchase a home. The HERS rater is going to look your house over top to bottom and do a couple of basic tests, and then put it all into an energy model to get your score. So it's not a real invasive process. An energy audit can reveal hidden problems in your home that you don't know about, that you've never seen or even conceived of. So it's often eye-opening when you get one. And then if you make the energy upgrades based on the audit, you can actually increase your home's resale value. If you have a HERS rating on a home, you can actually you can ask your appraiser to fill out what's called a green addendum, and that justifies the energy savings and the work that went into improving energy efficiency of your home.
Now, you get some sort of certificate after they do?
Yeah, you do. Okay. You get a certificate which has your HERS index score and a bunch of information about energy savings, equipment efficiencies, and things like that.
That's good to know.
Yep.
That's a good.
And then probably the biggest thing is if you make most people that want an energy audit often don't realize that the biggest benefit to making energy efficiency upgrades is comfort. Mm-hmm. And that's what most people complain about. They complain a room is too drafty, this room's too cold, that room's too hot. Getting an energy audit will improve the comfort of your home. Wow. And that's kind of one of those things that you appreciate far more, even than the energy savings that you're going to get on your bill.
Right. Hey, Ryan, it was actually great to have you on, because a lot of people hear the words ResNet and they have no idea what it was. You made it simple for everybody. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
And anytime you want to come back on, just give us a shout, and I'm going to call you to see if you want to go to Washington with me.
Yeah, I lived there for 4 years.
Sorry. Is it cold back there? Where you are now in New York?
Here right now.
So it's going to be cold for the Super Bowl, I guess. It's an indoor.
Yeah, it's in Atlanta. We're good.
Whatever. All right. Well, go have a good week. Stay warm, and to our listeners, the most important thing you all got to do this week is
think blue.
Good night, everybody.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
California Headline News. As the storms hit the state, mandatory evacuations are now voluntary in the Holy Fire burn scar. This woman lives in Lake Elsinore.
It is thundering and raining pretty hard today already, and you can definitely tell a difference. And this is really reminds me of when it rained back in December.
Because of these storms, there are multiple watches and advisories in effect throughout California. A few minutes after taking off from LAX this morning, JetBlue Flight 324 bound for New York was struck by lightning, forcing the pilot to return to LAX. Jake McGraw was a passenger aboard the flight.
Cabin filled with light, loud pop, everybody kind of looking at each other like, what was that? 2 or 3 minutes later, captain gets on the horn and say, yeah, I can confirm that was a lightning strike.
Also this morning, a Southwest flight was struck by lightning after leaving LAX. The plane was bound for Portland but landed in Oakland instead. And 2 Los Angeles City workers are safe after being rescued from a mudslide. They were trapped near their vehicle in a remote area of a canyon. A fire department helicopter lowered a lifeline to them to hoist them to safety. Stu Clausen, California News.
At AT&T, we believe that access to affordable home internet brings incredible opportunities. Explore a digital world of possibilities and connect with family, friends, and the things that matter most. That's why there's access from AT&T. If you are a California resident and a member of your household participates in SNAP or receives SSI benefits, you may qualify for home internet at a discounted rate of $10 a month. No commitment, no deposit, no installation fee. Plus, get an in-home Wi-Fi gateway at no extra cost. Call 1-855-220-5211 or visit att.com/aware to learn more.
SNAP refers to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SSI refers to the Federal Supplemental Security Income Program. Pricing excludes taxes and fees. Service will include a monthly data allowance depending on the type and speed of service you receive. If you exceed your monthly data plan allowance, you will be automatically charged $10 for each 50 gigabytes of data usage in excess of your data plan, even if less than 50 gigabytes is used. For details about data allowances, go to att.com/internet-usage. Wi-Fi enabled device required. Other restrictions apply.
NBC News Radio, I'm Jim Forbes. Despite days of mixed statements, President Trump is claiming that he's on the same page with